Discover the incredible truth. A cowboy's unexpected decision to take all 5 children revealed. Jake Miller sat on his porch, exhaustion seeping deeper into his bones than the endless Montana sun could reach. He had wrestled the sprawling ranch he inherited into some semblance of order, but it was a constant battle against the land's ferocious spirit. Solitude had become his closest companion, a fortress built against the ghosts of a father he barely knew and didn't want to resemble. His rugged life was a rhythm of labor, almost peaceful, until the day he learned of the children. 5 grandchildren, all lost and alone, clawed at something hidden within him. The notification struck like a lightning bolt, quickening his pulse. Abandoned by their mother, tossed into foster care like worthless scraps. Each name felt heavy, intertwining sorrow with resentment. What did he owe these kids? They had roots in his father's sins, whispers of a history that had chased him for decades. The irony twisted deeper. Here he was, a man who abandoned family ties, facing a call to take theirs on his shoulders. Could he truly be the man they needed? Rumors echoed through the small town of Billings, twisting like the dust devils that danced across the prairies. A single cowboy was supposed to be tough, not responsible for the fates of 5 vulnerable children. He could hear their whispers already. He's not equipped. They'll be better off elsewhere. What did they know about the burdens he had fought for years to escape? His heart wrestled with a firestorm of disdain for the judgments that pulsed through him, igniting fears he had buried deep. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each child was a mirror reflecting pieces of his tumultuous past. Lily, with wildflowers in her hair, brought an unexpected softness he had forgotten existed. Her innocence was a balm, yet it unnerved him. What if he couldn't protect her? And Noah, the eldest, wore defiance like a second skin, challenging Jake in a way no adult ever had. Who was he to guide them, to shape their lives? The pressure felt like a vice, tightening around him, stifling breath as the weight of decisions loomed like thunderclouds above. As the days passed, laughter filled corners of the ranch that had long known only silence. Yet with every joy, shadows crept closer, whispering the unresolved turmoil of family secrets. Perhaps ignorance was bliss, but glimpses of their mother's scars stared back at him from their faces. The revelation of her link to Jake's haunting childhood drew closer with every passing moment, an ominous climax that threatened to unravel the fragile ties they had begun to forge. Then came the letter. Broken seals told of truths buried deep, unraveling connections he had fled. As Jake held the paper, words flooding his mind, he felt the ground shift beneath him. Could he protect these children, shelter them from a legacy so thick with darkness? As uncertainty roared in his ears, he stood at a precipice, heart racing as secrets loomed. Facing demons that whispered they were destined to fail, Jake was caught in a tempest of agonizing choice. To embrace their fractured history, or to shield them from the very truth that could shatter their newfound family altogether. Holding the letter tightly in his hand, Jake stared out at the horizon, the sun dipping behind the vast Montana hills. It felt like time itself had condensed into that fragile piece of parchment, its power coursing through him like a raw electric charge. What lay within would not only affect him, but would ripple through the lives of the children he had freshly taken under his care. With a deep breath, Jake forced himself to step inside the house. The gentle hum of laughter accompanied the clinking of dishes in the kitchen where the children were gathered. The vivid contrast between their joy and the bleak realities he faced was jarring. He had tried to build a sense of home for them, but the specter of their mother haunted every corner of his mind. What would they think if they learned the truth? Would they forgive a man who had spent his life running from responsibility, abandoning family ties? An echo of thunder rumbled in the distance as Jake considered his next move. Would confronting the past empower him to forge a new identity? The ranch had always felt like an albatross, a reminder of a lineage that drove him to solitude. But now, with these children in his life, it felt as though he had a chance to reshape the narrative. If he could confront the darkness within himself, maybe he could foster a haven for them, one rooted in love and acceptance rather than fear. Noah's voice broke through his contemplations, filled with a mixture of curiosity and courage. "Jake, are we going to have spaghetti for dinner or what?" His directness was earnest, yet it startled Jake, echoing the challenges he faced in learning parental responsibility. It revealed a disconnect between his thoughts and the children's expectations. He realized that they were not merely looking for a caretaker, they needed him to be present and engaged, perhaps even vulnerable. "Yeah, spaghetti's on the menu, just need to get a few things sorted out," Jake replied, instinctively slipping back into a role of assurance. But that instinct felt insincere against the rising tide of uncertainty within him. As he gathered ingredients, the noisy chatter around him formed a lively backdrop, pushing against his doubts. The children's antics were reducing the weight of his inner turmoil, gently unraveling the knots of anxiety as Noah playfully wrestled with his younger siblings to grab a bowl. In this domestic chaos, Jake felt glimpses of clarity. Perhaps this was how his father had failed him, not by seeking to abandon his children, but by failing to engage with their emotional needs. Lily came over and tugged at his shirt. "Can I help?" The innocence and eagerness in her eyes pierced his heart, reigniting the flicker of tenderness he thought he had buried forever. He nodded, motioning for her to join him at the countertop, where they could create something together. With each action, the rhythm of preparation for dinner replaced the chaotic thoughts racing in Jake's mind, the tangible turning of vegetables and the bubbling of water giving him a semblance of control. As the garlic sizzled and the aroma filled the air, he considered the deepening bond with Lily. Could he extend that connection with Noah and the others as well? Suddenly, the looming shadows returned. His past wasn't something he could ignore anymore. It had shaped him and was now poised to influence these children. Would he be strong enough to confront the truth his father couldn't bear to face? The thought gripped him, squeezing the air from his lungs. That evening, as they sat around the table, sharing stories and teasing one another, Jake resolved to confront the letter. Secrets bore chains that could bind, but revelation had the potential to liberate. If he faced the truth, perhaps, just perhaps, he could alter the course of their fates. The clatter of forks resonated in the afternoon sun, laughter spilling as freely as the weathered wood beneath them. As he processed the importance of this moment, a knot of trepidation twisted deep in his gut. The next confrontation was imminent. He needed to talk to Noah, to break through that veneer of defiance and build trust. Their journey was just beginning. But first, he would have to face the letter, the truth of the past that was now intertwined irrevocably with their future. Would it break them, or could it be the key to cohesion amid the chaos? The weight of possibility hung in the air, heavy and electric, foreshadowing the storm that awaited him. In the depths of the night, as the wind rustled the trees like whispers of suspense, Jake realized that some journeys must be faced even when fear beckons to run away. The moment to unveil the past had arrived. With a deep breath, he prepared himself for the confrontation that loomed ahead, knowing there would be no turning back. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with youthful energy, a stark reminder of the life Jake yearned to cultivate, one untouched by the shadows that loomed just beyond reach. As he listened to the children's laughter, it further fueled his resolve. It was time to grapple with the burdens of his past, and the burdens he hoped to impart to them, or rather, remove from their future. Jake washed his hands, the cool water refreshing against his skin. He could no longer pretend that this letter was a mere piece of paper. It was the key to understanding who he was meant to be, not just for himself, but for these vulnerable little lives now woven into the fabric of his own. He glanced at the letter lying on the counter, its edges soft with wear. As he dried his hands, he felt as if the paper was calling out to him, pulling him in two directions, one toward the past he feared, and the other toward a future he might create. "Dad, can we play a game after dinner?" Noah's voice broke his concentration again, and within it was a challenge, a reminder that Jake had to navigate the waters of fatherhood. Responding would require balancing his own emotional upheaval with the need to nurture the innocence around him, a task that felt monumental. "Sure, buddy, what do you have in mind?" Jake asked, his mind still half distracted. The delighted cheers of the children floated through the air like victory banners, a heartening contrast to the turmoil brewing within him. Jake found himself smiling as he set the table, letting their joy momentarily mask the coiling anxiety in his gut. Yet, as their laughter rang out, he wondered if he could truly be the man they deserved. The thought struck. He had spent years running from responsibility, running from emotions, running from family. But here he was, confronted by the weight of familial obligations once more. He caught himself staring at the letter again, as if it contained the answers to every question swirling in his mind. "Can I read the letter?" A small voice startled him. Lily stood there, her curious eyes impossibly wide. For a moment, Jake froze, the internal conflict blanketing his thoughts. What would happen if he shared this burden with them? "No, sweetheart, it's something I need to deal with on my own first," he replied gently, watching her expression dim slightly. "But I want to help," she insisted, her small hands forming fists in determination. In that moment, Jake realized that vulnerability could create connection. Could his willingness to bear his own truths also unify them? Could showing them his scars cultivate a safe space ripe for healing? "Okay, Lily, I promise you'll be the first to know when I'm ready. But right now, let's enjoy spaghetti together and then go play something fun," he replied, intent on shifting the narrative. Dinner unfolded like a ceremony of daily joy. Laughter filled the air, and as promised, they transitioned to a makeshift game in the living room. As they tossed a soft football back and forth, Jake felt the tension in him slowly deflate, perhaps because gripping the past and vibrating with the weight of it no longer seemed like his only option. Yet when Lily's laughter erupted into the air, a call for attention as her team cheered her on, a flash of doubt struck him like a lightning bolt. What if he failed them? What if confronting the letter only unraveled the delicate happiness they had built? With each pass of the football, Jake felt something shift, a realization that to build a future with these children, he couldn't afford to let fear determine his actions. Suddenly, he knew he had to confront the letter soon. Its truths would demand understanding and honesty, not just with himself, but with the children who had begun to see him as their father figure. As the game reached a fever pitch, Jake caught Noah's eyes across the room, and the defiance he had seen earlier was exchanged for something almost akin to admiration. Would this admiration sustain itself when faced with the unveiling of his past? The tension brewed again, but so did a burgeoning sense of responsibility. It was time to turn this journey into something transformative for all of them. Jake's path to self-discovery had only begun, but he could feel the weight of past decisions shifting. The moment to reveal the truth bore down heavily again, yearning for release. His heart raced as he caught a glimpse of the letter tucked away in the kitchen. What awaited him in the shadows of that paper would shake the very foundations of this newfound family dynamic. With the game still alive in the background, the urgency to reconcile his past and forge a path forward became unrelenting. No more avoidance. The letter beckoned, full of potential. Was it a harbinger of doom or a vehicle for growth? The answer awaited him, entwined in an emotional odyssey that loomed just ahead. The time was drawing near to seize that moment, to confront the unknown that had haunted him for far too long. He could almost hear the whispers of change urging him on, echoing against everything he feared. It was one truth away from a revelation that would redefine not just him, but those young lives hinged upon his decisions. Would he stand tall in the face of it all, or falter again? The clock was ticking, and with resolve tightening in his chest, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever awaited him in the flickering candlelight of their shared home. Jake stood in the quiet aftermath of game night, the soft hum of laughter still echoing lightly in the corners of his mind. He surveyed the remnants of the evening, scrunched up bits of colorful paper, a half-eaten plate of spaghetti, and 5 pairs of sneakers discarded at the door like spontaneous offerings to a chaotic joy. Yet, his gaze gravitated again to the letter, the singular thread connecting him to everything he had ever run from. He felt the pull of its narrative weight, a reminder that, no matter how much joy surrounded him, it could not silence the truths conspiring against his newfound stability. Jake's heart sank as he recalled the day he ran from his past, believing it was the safest path. Now he hesitated on the precipice of breaking the silence surrounding it. "You okay, Dad?" Noah's voice interrupted his thoughts, stepping into the kitchen with a concerned look. The boy's perceptive nature astonished Jake. It went far beyond his years. In no other circumstance would Jake have welcomed scrutiny, but right then he appreciated it. It grounded him. "Yeah, just thinking," Jake said, forcing a smile, yet the weight in his chest constricted tighter like a band around an overstuffed suitcase. Could he be the man they needed without sharing what haunted him? "About the letter?" Noah asked gently, an innocent inquiry laid bare. Jake nodded silently, unsure whether to admire or mourn the same understanding he saw reflected in his son's eyes. This was a turning point, not just personal, but also something greater. His resolve returned as he sensed the urgency of their connection. Dropping the weight of uncertainty had become paramount. It would forge clarity in this complex structure he was building. The letter contained choices that molded him, powerful enough to shield the children from similar pain. Yet to protect them, he had to confront it first. "Let's sit down for a moment," he said, guiding Noah to the small kitchen table strewn with remnants of the evening. Jake pulled the folded letter from its hiding place, his hands trembling. In that moment, he understood. The fear he felt was just as powerful as the bond he was forging with these kids. They were deeper than tears and laughter. They saw him, were rooting for him, and deserved honesty. "Do you want to see what's inside?" he asked, looking directly into Noah's eyes, searching for the boy's readiness. "Is it going to make you sad?" Noah questioned, the wisdom of childhood mingling with apprehensiveness. "Yes, but it's important too. It's a part of me, of us now." Noah nodded, lifting the letter from Jake's hands, his grip tight with anticipation. The crinkled paper felt heavy with fear and truth, a vessel ready to spill secrets. As Noah fumbled with the edges, the sincerity of their own unfolding story began to materialize between them. There was no escaping what lay in that letter. It would either fortify their connection or shatter it. "Can we read it together?" he asked, his voice soft but resolute. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of indecision slide away. He didn't have to carry this burden alone. "Yes, let's do it together." The edges of the letter, too frayed to ignore, mirrored the fraying lines of Jake's past. Regret, sorrow, but most of all, determination to rise above it all for their sake. He realized this was a moment they'd share, marking a chapter of their lives defined by honesty rather than avoidance. As they unfolded that piece of his life, Jake could almost feel the children's presence enveloping him, lending strength to the vulnerable act of revealing the past. Here began a journey of shared understanding, infused with the complexities of emotion and the intertwined destinies they didn't yet know. With each word they read, Jake felt a layer of his resolve solidifying like a foundation beneath fragile walls. The truth was not just his burden, not only the specter of pain, but a testament to the strength found in vulnerability. It was a chance for them all to redefine what family meant. And outside, shadows of doubt cast themselves, heavy with their usual weight, but they now breathed in tandem with a fragile yet growing hope. Would they emerge stronger, or would the truth shatter them in ways he couldn't yet comprehend? The answer remained suspended in the air, tantalizingly close, awaiting the reckoning. The moment they shared loomed in silence, the world around them forgotten for a heartbeat, yet the reality would soon demand their decisions. What fledgling light might emerge from this endeavor? With a trembling heart, Jake realized this was not just about him. It was about the company that forged him anew. Would this lead to a revelation that reframed their entire life together? Or would the letter do what years of avoidance couldn't, unravel the very fabric that bound them? As hope intertwined with fear, the thick silence hung thickly in the air, ready to snap with the weight of a singular truth. The next heartbeat could change everything. Jake squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, inhaling deeply as he prepared to confront the letter's contents. The world around him seemed to fade, leaving just him and Noah suspended in anticipation. He could feel Noah's small fingers tremble as the weight of the moment sank in, a handshake with truth that would forever alter their path. The letter unfolded like a fragile flower, revealing its jagged edges of misfortune and resilience. What lay within was not just Jake's history, but a collection of lessons, triumphs, and failures that he hoped could serve as a guide for the children. As Noah looked up at him, curiosity swirling in his eyes, Jake felt a flicker of determination ignite. "All right, let's see what it says," Jake said softly, allowing the ripple of nervous energy to transform into an empowering wave. With each sentence they read, the past spilled forth, Jake's mistakes, his pain, detailed in an unfiltered honesty that both terrified and liberated him. He revealed his tumultuous childhood, the moments of reckless decisions, and the walls he built to shield himself from hurt. The rhythm of his heart thudded painfully as he shared these secrets, the sacrifices made, the bridges burned, and the indelible scars etched into his soul. Noah listened intently, his brow furrowing in concentration. Jake's heart swelled with pride. The boy was absorbing the lessons, reflecting on them rather than shying away. This was the courage that Jake had hoped to inspire. A rediscovery of strength through vulnerability was surfacing, not just for himself, but for Noah too. As they turned the pages, Jake could not shake the feeling of being unshackled. The more he unveiled, the lighter he felt. Perhaps this confession was not just a burden to bear, but rather a reminder of the strength to rise from the ashes of complexity. When you're brave enough to listen to your past, it becomes easier to shape your future, Jake said gently, his voice steady. This letter isn't just about regret. It's about realizing that mistakes are a part of the journey, and confronting them lets you build something new. Noah's eyes sparkled with understanding, a reflection of a shared epiphany that transcended their age gap. "So, it's okay to mess up, Dad, as long as we learn?" "Yes, exactly. We're not here to get it perfect. We're here to grow, to adapt. You four have been my guide in that more than you know." Jake felt an overwhelming tide of gratitude wash over him. This was what he needed to do, to connect and discover together as a family. Yet, he hesitated, sensing the fragile balance of their conversation. The letter's final revelation beckoned ominously from the confines of reality. A one-liner, lurking at the end of the letter, was a dark reminder, a choice that still loomed over his life, the decision to leave everything behind for a fresh start, an emotional raft in tumultuous waters. Sharing that choice with Noah, altering the course of everything they'd built together, felt daunting. "Is there more?" Noah asked quietly, holding the edges of the letter like a treasure map that might reveal further shores. Jake paused, contemplating the implications of his next words. His instinct urged caution, but he recognized that hesitation now could extinguish the light they had ignited. "There is more," he admitted, struggling but determined to keep the trust they had forged. Jake could almost feel the foundations beneath him shift, the realization that deeper truths would soon unfurl in front of them. Would now be the moment he shared the ultimate decision? The one that would radically change the family dynamic forever? The tension curled around them like smoke, thickening the air in the kitchen, palpable and electric. He inhaled sharply, confronting the worry gnawing at him. "Sometimes past choices haunt us more than we expect, Noah. But growing up means understanding that we can shape how we move forward." The kitchen lights flickered as if echoing the uncertainty that enveloped them. "Do you want to hear the decision that changed everything?" Jake asked, his heart racing with vulnerability and resolve. Noah nodded, anticipation mixing with apprehension. Jake knew that this was only the beginning of a deeper journey into their intertwined destinies. What awaited on the other side, heavy with the weight of truth, was still cloaked in mystery, ready to shimmer in the light of revelation. Would this decision break them further apart, or slowly tether them together in ways they had yet to understand? The answer loomed just beyond reach, waiting for Jake to grasp it. Jake's heart thudded against his ribs, each beat thumping a rhythm of uncertainty, as he prepared to unveil the decision. The choice he had mulled over countless nights since it had lured him with the promise of salvation. Couldn't it just be a secret he kept tucked away in the shadows untouched? No. This moment called for transparency, a daring leap into vulnerability that would not only transform him, but would ripple through Noah and the others. "Noah," he said, his voice wavering slightly, "I've thought a lot about where we go from here. This decision, it's not just mine. It influences all of us." He caught Noah's attentive gaze, which anchored him and ignited the flicker of courage within. "I considered leaving," Jake confessed, his mind whirling with the weight of the words. running away from everything, the mistakes, the pain, the memories that haunt me like shadows. I thought about starting fresh elsewhere, just the 5 of you and me. Noah's eyes widened, disbelief mingling with something deeper, a profound fear of change. The boy's silence amplified the atmosphere, and Jake could feel the tension coiling tighter. "What do you mean, Dad? Leaving?" Noah's question sliced through the thick air, each syllable tinged with incomprehension. "Yes," Jake said, his pulse quickening. "But it's more than just physical. It's about escaping the gone. I thought, if we could live somewhere different, we could create new stories, new traditions. We wouldn't have to be defined by our past." Noah shook his head, the spark of frustration illuminating his features. "But what about our home, our life here? You can't just throw everything away. We all have memories just like you." Jake cringed internally. The reality of Noah's words struck hard. This was no longer just a decision. This was an invitation to face their collective history, the raw edges of their life together. "I know it sounds drastic, but maybe it can be a chance for us to grow, to redefine ourselves, to not let old scars dictate our experience." He saw Noah grapple with the concept, his young face a landscape of conflicting emotions. Fear, resentment, confusion swirled together as if fighting for dominance. Jake understood this wasn't just about a new location, it was an arduous journey through a psychological minefield. "What if it's not perfect, Dad?" Noah pressed. "What if we can't escape our past? What if we end up hurting even more? You taught me that mistakes are part of life, but can we really just run away and pretend?" That childlike wisdom struck Jake hard. He understood now. Running would never erase the pain. Instead, it might deepen the fissures between them. "You're right, Noah. It's not about running. It's about a shift in perspective. We would face whatever it is together. I don't want to run from who I am or who we are. I want you all to have the tools to confront life, no matter where we are." Jake's resolve solidified. Admitting the shadow of running was, in itself, an act of strength. It wasn't about abandoning the past, but forging a path through it, hand in hand. He felt a renewed sense of responsibility to ensure his children inherited a legacy of bravery, not fear. "Can you see it, Noah?" Jake pressed, desperation lacing his words. "This must be our choice, your choice too. We could break the cycle, reshape our future, carving out a space defined by hope rather than despair." Noah's reaction was instant, his demeanor softened, the fight within him ebbing as realization dawned. "So where would we go, and how would we start again?" Jake took a deep breath, realizing that this moment was the doorway to further transformation, not just for him but for the entire family. "I don't have all the answers right now, but I know that we'll face our demons together, wherever that is. It's about choosing not to hide, but to embrace our realities." The glint of understanding sparked in Noah's eyes, illuminating the way forward. They were on the cusp of something vast, an adventure that merged past with possibility. Yet the journey would begin with clarity and resolve, each decision weighed heavily with power. "Let's explore the options together," Jake continued, feeling a sense of purpose swell within him. "How can we move forward, not just physically but mentally, emotionally?" As they dove deeper into strategy and the prospect of a new beginning, a new fear flickered beneath the surface. What would the others think? How would they react? The collective acceptance of this radical metamorphosis loomed ahead, veined with doubt and invigorated by hope. What revelations would unfold when they brought the siblings into conversation? How would each child react to the possibilities lying ahead? The tension reformulated into a crescendo of excitement tinged with the shadow of apprehension. The real dialogue was just starting, and Jake stood at the brink, ready to engage his whole family in the confluence of past pain and future promise. Jake felt invigorated as he and Noah crafted their vision for the future. The conversation shifted decisively. They were no longer floundering in uncertainty. Instead, they were standing on the edge of opportunity, armed with clarity and intent. The room pulsated with unspoken possibilities, hearts synchronized in a silent vow to uncover the truth about what lay ahead. "Let's gather the others," Jake proposed, determination strengthening his voice. "If we are to take this leap, they need to be involved, to understand what's at stake. We need to face this together." Noah's nod expressed both agreement and anticipation, and the weight of their decision pressed on them like a palpable force. As they exited the room, Jake's mind whirled with the implications of their plan. Would his children embrace the notion of change? What hidden fears might surface? Would this not just be a journey across land, but one through his children's hearts? In the living room, Jake found Mia and Liam sprawled on the couch, engrossed in their gaming. Their tension-dispersing laughter rang out, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside him. "Hey guys," Jake started, heart racing. "Can we talk?" Mia paused the game, curiosity dancing in her eyes, but Liam barely glanced up from the screen. "Can't it wait? This level's epic!" Jake felt a stab of impatience but steadied himself. This moment deserved their grasp, not just another distraction. "It's important, kids. Please, put the game on hold." The shift in his tone caught their attention. With a glance at each other, they exchanged silent negotiations before Mia heaved a dramatic sigh and tossed the controller aside. Liam followed suit, albeit reluctantly. "Okay, Dad, what's up?" Mia's youthful innocence contrasted sharply with the weighty conversation Jake was about to initiate. "We're considering a big change," he said, drawing in a deep breath to brace himself. "Like moving somewhere new." "What? Why?" Liam's brows furrowed, disbelief colored his features. "I love it here." I know," Jake rushed in, his pulse quickening as a sense of urgency seized him. "But sometimes we get stuck, you know? We have to change things up to grow as a family and heal from everything that's happened." Mia leaned forward, sensing the gravity of their discussion. "What about friends? School? We can't just uproot everything." Jake internally winced at the very real points they raised. "That's what I'm asking you all to help with. We could consider all of this together. What it means to leave and what it means to stay. It's not just my decision. It's about all of us." They fell into silence, contemplating his words. Jake observed their reactions closely, searching for signs of acceptance or resistance. "So you're saying we have a choice?" Mia asked, her voice steady, yet filled with the hint of a child's apprehension. "Yes, exactly," Jake affirmed, feeling pride tugging at his chest. "We can create a vision together, but it begins by confronting our fears, not running away from them." Liam's face transformed into a mask of defiance. "What if it's worse wherever we go? What if it's not better? What if we regret it?" Jake recognized the skepticism, but chose to guide instead of dismiss. "Life's about risks. We can't predict the future, but we can choose to shape it based on our love and our willingness to face challenges together." As the concern hung in the air, conflicting emotions interwove within the family circle. Mia's brow furrowed in thought. "Can we really make it better, Dad? It's a big deal." His heart swelled at her courage to voice her hesitations, a sign of her growing maturity. "Yes, if we believe we can, but I can't do this without your input. Let's lay out a plan based on your hopes and fears." Their impulsive energy seemed to shift, transforming sharply into a collective contemplation. Jake's mind sprinted ahead, envisioning brainstorming sessions, laughter, tears, the unexpected revelations waiting in the wings. But what would happen when they confronted the darkest aspects of their past? As he prepared to listen to each child's thoughts, a new thought prickled his mind. Would they outperform their pain, or would old wounds still haunt them, dragging them back into the shadows as they sought the light? "What about the others?" Mia finally asked, bringing Jake back to the present. "What do they think? How will we bring everyone on board?" The question hung heavy, a reminder of the complexities ahead. They were just beginning to unearth the depth of their situation, and the journey would not be easy. Jake bit his lip, uncertainty creeping back in like a fog. "We'll face that together, one step at a time." But could he truly facilitate a family revolution, or would it turn into a heartbreaking plunge into the abyss of their history? As the weight of their collective past clung to his thoughts, he resolutely faced the challenge ahead. For everything now revolved around one simple, compelling truth. Change would not just be external. It would lead them, inevitably, to face the deepest corners of their hearts. What could this revelation unveil as they ventured into this uncharted territory? Jake watched as the weight of their conversation settled in, examining the expressions on Mia and Liam's faces. He was acutely aware that this moment would test not just their resilience, but also his capacity to lead his family through uncharted waters. The enormity of the decision loomed like a shadow. "Let's think about it a little more. We can work through this together," he offered, trying to instill some hope. He sensed an internal battle in Mia, the willingness to embrace adventure clashing with the strong roots of familiarity. Liam, however, appeared more cautious, still locked in a defensive stance. "What exactly do you have in mind, Dad?" Mia asked, her youthful optimism stirring beneath the weight of concern. Jake took a moment to recall the fragments of his earlier discussion with Noah. "I want this to be a journey, not just about moving. It's about building something new, together. We can start fresh and redefine ourselves." "But Dad, how do you know we won't screw things up?" Liam interjected, hesitance threading through his words. "What if it makes everything worse? What if we end up hating it?" Jake recognized the truth in Liam's words, the fear of the unknown. He realized that they must navigate these uncertainties as a unit. The skepticism was palpable. Change is never easy, but maybe if we map out each step and weigh potential outcomes, we can tackle it together. What if we outline places we could potentially move to, and what they could offer us? Mia's eyes brightened with the prospect of being actively involved. "We could look into things like schools, parks, and communities we might like," she said. "Exactly. And we could even involve the others, like Noah's kids," Jake responded, feeling a surge of determination. "They're facing this with us too, so let's collectively brainstorm our options." Liam rubbed his chin, the gears visibly turning in his mind. "If we're going to do this, maybe we should make a list of pros and cons," he suggested, a hint of excitement mingling with apprehension. "Like, if we moved to a new town, what would change for each of us? What would we gain and what would we lose?" "That's it, buddy. If we're going to make any decision, we need to see everything clearly." Jake felt a twinge of pride. His children were learning to engage with their concerns, a step toward the growth he wished for them. "Can we schedule a discussion with Noah and his family soon? I want to hear what they think," Mia added, her confidence blossoming as she took ownership of the conversation. Jake nodded, buoyed by their newfound initiative. "Absolutely, let's set it up, but remember, the most important part of this is exploring what change means to each of us. It's not just a physical move, it's about how we see ourselves in new light." In that moment, Jake realized he was not solely navigating the familial waters, he was also rediscovering the strength within himself. By facing fears together, he was encouraging his children to confront their uncertainties head-on, a lesson that stretched beyond geography. As they began drafting their considerations, Jake felt the stirrings of hope. The impending journey held challenges, and the rocky road ahead was evident. But he was adamant about keeping the lines of communication open throughout, fostering more substantial connections. That evening marked the initiation of personal growth, transformation not just in where they might live, but who they could become as a family. As everyone settled down for bed, Jake's mind buzzed with unlimited possibilities. Would this collective adventure fortify their bonds, or would it expose deeper fractures? The next morning, the time came to present their nascent ideas to Noah and his family. Could Jake muster the courage to share his own dreams while inviting their input, or would he falter under the weight of what had yet to come? Jake woke early, unable to shake the anxious thoughts swirling in his mind. The sun barely peeked through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room, yet he felt wide awake, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and dread. Today was the day he would present their ideas to Noah and his family, and it felt like standing on the precipice of a cliff, overlooking a vast unknown. As he prepared breakfast, he replayed yesterday's discussions in his head. His children, Mia and Liam, had taken their first steps toward embracing change in a way he'd never anticipated. Their enthusiasm, mixed with a touch of anxiety, flickered in his mind as he remembered their willingness to make lists, research communities, and involve Noah's family in the decision. It was a promising start, yet he still worried about the challenges ahead. What if they stumbled? What if the move did create cracks where they hoped to build bridges? Jake felt the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. As he set the table and plated pancakes laced with syrup, he couldn't help but feel he was simultaneously nurturing their current lives while setting the stage for what lay ahead. After breakfast, they convened in the living room, where Noah's family was expected in mere hours. Mia and Liam sat cross-legged on the floor, voraciously poring over their notes, each scribbled line a testament to their sincerity and desire to be part of this decision. Observing them filled Jake with pride, but it also instilled a sense of urgency. Their willingness to engage with their fears and dream aloud served as a reminder that he, too, had to step beyond his comfort zone. "Are we ready for this?" he asked, his brow furrowing as he paced around the room, a habit when he felt anxious. Mia looked up with bright eyes, filled with a combination of determination and apprehension. "We've put in the work, Dad. We've got a good plan." Her confidence struck a chord within him. Liam chimed in. "Remember, we're not just following your lead. We're all making this decision together. It's not only about moving, it's about finding out who we are." "Exactly," Jake replied, his heart swelling at their maturity. Perhaps they wouldn't fail after all. Maybe this process of exploration would deepen their understanding of themselves and each other. He began to gather his thoughts about how to approach developmentally. They needed a transparent conversation, one that allowed for every voice to be heard. His instincts urged him to tread carefully. They were still unsettling waters. The doorbell rang, breaking his reverie. The moment had arrived. Anxiety gripped him as he opened the door to Noah and his family. He greeted them with a warm smile, wishing to mask the turmoil roiling within him. As they all settled into the living room, an electric tension filled the air. "We've been brainstorming," Jake began, drawing in a deep breath, "and I think it's essential for us to approach this collaboratively." The conversation flowed. Ideas were exchanged like currency, each thought building upon the last, amplifying the collective energy in the room. Jake was impressed. Noah's children mirrored Mia and Liam's excitement, each contributing their insights about potential homes, the best schools, and their own fears about leaving behind friendships. Yet amid the laughter and optimism, a shadow of doubt crept back into Jake's mind. Could he confidently shepherd them all towards a better future? Suddenly, he found himself grappling with what really drove him, fear of failure versus the desire for growth, not just for him but for them all. As they began discussing potential towns, a wave of determination washed over him. Where they would ultimately end up mattered less than how they would face the transition as a family. If he could guide them toward open dialogue and self-exploration, he could help them uncover their hidden strengths along the way. But just as conversation shifted toward logistics, Noah expressed a lingering worry that set Jake's heart racing all over again. What if we uproot our lives only to realize we made a terrible mistake? Jake felt that sharp pang of uncertainty settle in. They had opened Pandora's box, and now each question raised echoed louder than the last, reminding him that the path forward was fraught with emotional risks they couldn't ignore. But the real challenge lay within the silence that followed. Could Jake find the courage to turn the unspoken fears into dialogue that would guide them through the uncertainty ahead? As he gathered his thoughts, he realized the countdown to transformation had truly begun, and he had to lean into this unknown frontier. How would he address that fear head-on and transform it into strength, not just for himself but for all 5 children now intertwined in this life-altering decision? Jake sat, a storm of emotions swirling within him as he navigated the delicate tapestry of hope and anxiety. The room around him was filled with the youthful energy emanating from Noah's family as they gathered, energized by the prospect of their shared journey. This meeting was more than a moment. It was the threshold of transformation for their families and the culmination of choices that lay heavily upon him. He opened the discussion, his heart racing as each child expressed varying degrees of excitement and trepidation about the future. The mercurial nature of both hope and fear danced on the edges of his consciousness. As ideas flowed about potential towns and new schools, Jake saw an opportunity present itself. It was not just about geographical changes, but the very essence of who they would become amid the chaos of transition. Yet the real test of resolve loomed just beyond their excitement, disguised as fears that simmered under the surface. Jake felt an insistent need to address the unvoiced apprehensions. "I know this is all really exciting," he began, his steady voice cutting through the buzz. "But we should also share our worries too. It's a big change, and it's okay to be scared." The room quieted, the gravity of his words settling in. Noah furrowed his brow, uncertainty etched across his face. What if we go somewhere that feels wrong? What if we miss our friends too much? Jake swallowed hard, recognizing the weight behind that question. It was a reflection not only of practical concerns, but of deeper emotional ties and bonds that had, until now, anchored him. I get it, he replied earnestly. Every change comes with something we leave behind. But remember, we'll face those feelings together. We'll create new friendships, new memories, and discover new sides of ourselves. Mia's voice broke the silence, infused with youthful wisdom shimmering through her concern. Can we figure out what we want in a new place? I mean, what would really make it feel like home? Absolutely, Jake replied, heartened by her initiative. That's why we're here. We all get a say in this, and building a vision together might ease some of those worries. With that, they launched into a collaborative discussion that allowed each child to vocalize their hopes, desires, and fears. From parks and schools to cultural opportunities and a sense of community, every perspective was welcomed, laying the foundation for a communal sense of ownership in their impending journey. Jake couldn't ignore the pride swelling within him. As he watched the siblings navigating through their conflicting emotions, he realized they were forging connections that extended beyond themselves. This dialogue became a symphony of vulnerability, empathy, and deepening relationships. But just as momentum surged forward, Liam's inquiry grounded them all once more. What if it doesn't go according to plan? He pressed, his youthful skepticism piercing through their positivity. What if we don't fit in? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of those words shadow their fervor. This would ultimately determine whether they would strengthen or allow their identities to splinter in the face of adversity. So what if it doesn't? The only thing we can control is how we respond to the challenges ahead. We have to face them head on, together, and if things go awry, it means we learn to adapt. The empathetic responses from both families filled Jake with resolve. Their fears were not inhibitors, they were valid expressions of care for one another. The conversation forged a path toward resilience, the true essence of family in all its complexities. In the days that followed, they each dedicated their energy to strategizing, shaping a plan that accounted for every conceivable transition. As they mapped out possibilities and dilemmas, Jake learned more about each child's strengths and aspirations. Noah's thirst for adventure, Mia's commitment to nurturing friendships, Liam's thoughtful rationale. In those shared moments, Jake witnessed genuine unity emerge from vulnerability, a tapestry of trust woven tighter than he ever expected. They were respectfully redefining the distance between fear and hope, anchoring their identities not just in a location, but in how they handled life's uncertainties together. As the final decision day approached, Jake took a step back to reflect on how the journey had transformed him. He had learned that each acknowledgement of fear added strength rather than weakness. This was more than an escape from his past. It was an intentional embrace of courage that would dictate who they would become. When the time arrived to make their final choice, Jake stood ready as a genuine leader. He presented their plans with clarity and conviction, confident that they had crafted an agreement based on trust, empathy, and the understanding that they were not just leaving behind a home, but weaving new bonds through the fabric of their interconnected lives. Finally, as they stood poised to embark on their adventure, Jake felt a serene confidence wash over him. Each child prepared, not to flee from the tides of their past, but to navigate the waters ahead with newfound resilience. Jake's transformation was complete. He was no longer just the reluctant caretaker of a fragmented legacy. He had emerged as a guiding force, fully embracing his role as a father, whose greatest achievement would be shaping a future defined by togetherness, trust, and unfaltering hope. This was their moment, one that heralded the dawn of not just a new physical journey, but an emotional renaissance, bravely stepping into a future that awaited with open arms. Now I call upon you, viewers and fans. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful journey of personal growth. Your engagement matters. Step forward and be part of this transformative experience.